We're talking about a headline that reads, "A House of Horrors, Pure Evil." That is the description that the Ohio Attorney General used. And I believe that that is probably the reason that we're here today doing this interview, is because the Ohio Attorney General, and now picked up by the media, is using this inflammatory and invocative language. So we are at the very early stages of this investigation. I was able to meet with my client, Elizabeth. I've met with her now 3 times. The person that I met does not come across as pure evil. The person that I met comes across as a mother who has been separated from her children, who is exhausted, and who misses her children, and is asking me constantly what she needs to do to see her children again, what she needs to do to ultimately be reunited with her children. That does not jive with the prosecutor's narrative. It doesn't jive with the Attorney General's narrative. And I think because of that language that was used so early on in this case, we are sitting here now having to defend that.
16 children were pulled from a 12 by 12 foot room in Ohio in the summer of 2026, and the Ohio Attorney General looked into the cameras and called it a house of horrors, pure evil.
Just really tracing back the history of this family. A little bit of the backstory though: 16 children were rescued from an Ohio home. The kids were kept isolated. It was a 12 by 12 foot home. 12 by 12 foot room inside the small home, according to authorities.
For adults sit in custody right now: Gary Ciders Sr., 73, Christina Ciders, 60, Gary Ciders II, 36, and Elizabeth Ciders, 33. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand why one detail buried in a Facebook comment might matter more to this case than anything the Attorney General said at that podium.
Bad, apparently, this was. The children were ranging in age from 18 months to 18 years old. They were 18, 16, 15, 14, 13, 11, 10, 8, 6, 5, 4-year-old twins, 2-year-old twins, and 1.5-year-old twins. The parents and the grandparents were arrested: 73-year-old Gary Ciders, 60-year-old Christina Ciders, 36-year-old Gary Ciders II, and 33-year-old Elizabeth Ciders. Now, Gary Ciders Sr. Apparently...
Here's the bomb drop. While the state was building a narrative of calculated cruelty, Elizabeth Ciders' own defense attorney sat down on News Nation and pushed back hard. He said the woman he's met with 3 times doesn't come across as evil. She comes across as a mother separated from her kids, asking constantly what she needs to do to get them back. That's not a contradiction. You usually get this early in a case. That's a defense attorney publicly staking his client's humanity against an attorney general's press conference language, and it tells you this case is going to be fought as much in public perception as in a courtroom.
Ended up at the house because there were the reports initially about indecent exposure, that there may have been like a warrant or an investigation involving, I guess, Gary Jr. and indecent exposure. But now I've heard that that's not necessarily why they came.
Now let's sit with the raw facts, because they don't need embellishment. 16 kids, ages 18 months to 18 years, described by investigators as almost feral. Their words, not mine.
Investigators described the children as almost feral, which I've seen some of the comments, like people are like, oh my gosh, it's such an awful way to describe children. And I don't disagree, but that's what investigators said at their press conference. And I think it just gives you an idea of...
All 16 have hospital birth certificates, confirmed by local station ABC6, which means these children weren't born off-grid.
You're right, Brian. So it was ABC6, a local affiliate, who actually was able to pull all of the birth certificates for all 16 children, and they confirmed that all of them were born in hospitals, which is...
They were born in a system built to track them, and then the system lost them anyway. Gary Ciders Jr. is also facing separate public indecency charges from 4 incidents this past May.
Court of law.
Meanwhile, the dad, Gary Ciders Jr., who is 36 years old, there's this separate incident involving him where he's accused of public indecency, and according to court documents, he's accused of exposing himself outside of his home to people other than those in his household. And it apparently happened on 4 different occasions, according to court documents back in May. According to WOWK, which is one of the local affiliates, Gary Ciders Jr. and Elizabeth Ciders were married in two.
Elizabeth was 15 when she married him at 18. Their first child arrived 2 months later. 2 more children, twin girls, were born in 2022 and died the same day.
Elizabeth was 15 years old. Gary was 18 years old. Their eldest child, who is now 18, was born just 2 months after their marriage. So Elizabeth was very, very young. In addition to the 16 children, WOWK reports that another set of twins, both girls, were born in 2022, but died the same.
And now here's your punchline moment, the one that should stop you cold. A woman claiming to be a foster mother to 2 of the Ciders girls posted online that Elizabeth is pregnant again. If true, this family may be expecting child number 17 while the other 16 sit in foster care and their parents sit in jail.
Far. And also, there was a Facebook post that had surfaced of this alleged foster mom. Again, investigators have not confirmed and law enforcement hasn't confirmed, but this foster mom had said to somebody in a response that she had 2 of the Ciders girls, and they confirmed that their mom was pregnant.
Let's talk about what's actually happening legally, because the vocabulary matters. The family waived their preliminary hearing. That's the early court proceeding where a judge decides if there's enough evidence to move forward, which means this case is heading straight to a grand jury, a group of citizens who'll decide whether to formally indict.
Courtroom, I want to, I wish that we had a preliminary hearing, but again, they waived it last week, so it's going to a grand jury. Maybe we'll find out more based on a possible indictment.
DNA testing is reportedly underway despite birth certificates already naming Gary and Elizabeth as the parents, which raises a real question. Are prosecutors checking paternity on some of these children specifically because something about this family structure doesn't add up?
Well, investigators and the county attorney have said the kids are all in foster homes. They're getting the care they need. They're getting the attention that they need, and they're all doing very well. They've stated that DNA testing is still underway, although, it is interesting. I heard that last week at a press conference. However, the birth certificates were obtained by ABC6, which stated that Elizabeth and Gary were both the father and mother of these kids.
And Gary Ciders Sr. has been approved for a mental evaluation, which strongly signals his defense may go the insanity route, legally and GI, not guilty by reason of insanity. Meaning the defense will argue he didn't understand what he was doing was wrong.
Right?
Have we heard anything about a possible defense at this point? I mean, do you think mental health is going to come into play here?
Well, Gary Ciders Sr. is getting an evaluation. The state signed off on that. His attorney had stated that initially he had no idea how to follow these court proceedings. He was very lost. He didn't even know who his attorney was, why he was there. And they were like, okay, we need to get him evaluated ASAP. So that should be happening. And I'm willing to bet there probably will be some kind of NGI plea, because they're kind of saying that he was not in his right state of mind when,
Here's the reframe most coverage is missing. Everyone wants to file this under evil parents, case closed. But the county attorney confirmed only the grandparents were receiving government assistance checks, not Gary and Elizabeth.
And one of the local reporters asked him about welfare checks. And to his knowledge, only the elder Ciders, Gary and Christina or Lynn Ciders, were getting checks from the government, which is...
Neither of them finished high school. And prosecutor Kim Dionia, who put away the Turpin parents in California, told me something that should unsettle you. With the Tippins, it wasn't one horrific decision. It was a gradual demise, skip 1 meal, then 2, chain 1 child, then 2, until horror became routine. That's not a defense of what happened here. It's an explanation of how ordinary people build a hell one small surrender at a time.
Health things going on, some control issues. I know that David and Luis, at some point they tried to point fingers. At some point, they tried to blame it on past traumas. All of the kids typically, though, had the same story, that it was a gradual demise. It wasn't always so bad, that Louise started out little by little, and it's almost like with each chaining of one child, then it became easier to chain them for longer. And then with each forcing a child to skip a meal, it became easier to make all of them skip a meal. And then with chaining one, it became easier to chain two. And then they just kind of got used to this rhythm of adding.
And it's why simple labels like evil or low IQ let everyone off the hook, including the state agencies that apparently never checked on these kids.
You see the one family member who posted on Facebook something about how they just have low IQ, like that's what happened here. It's not more complicated than that. It's not evil. It's just low IQ, which I just don't buy. I mean, you can have low IQ, but that doesn't mean you would have.
So what happens now? A grand jury will likely indict. DNA results may complicate who's legally responsible for which children. And an insanity evaluation could reshape the entire prosecution before it starts. If this case follows the Turpin blueprint, expect a plea to unravel slowly, expect conflicting accounts from family members, and expect the state to face its own uncomfortable questions about how 16 children vanished from official radar for years.
With the Ohio case, I was watching the sheriff. He was explaining that some of the kids can't even really speak. Like, even the older kids don't have, like, language skills. The 18-year-old, he said, couldn't write her name. Like with the Turpins, how difficult was it to communicate with them initially?
Here's what you should take from this. The next time a public official hands you a headline like House of Horrors, Pure Evil, ask what that language is doing, because inflammatory framing from an attorney general isn't evidence, it's strategy. And it can shape a jury pool before a single witness testifies. Watch for the DNA results. Watch for the insanity plea. And watch, most of all, for whoever in the system had a chance to check on these children and didn't, because that failure belongs to more than 4 people in a courtroom.